This is the molding we want to run around the crown of the room. It should sit on the wall like so, but if we put it up against the saw the way it's going to sit on the wall, the guard gets in the way, we're not sure whether we're square, we have no way to hold it stiff. Even if we turn it around and cut it upside down and backwards, we have to find some way to get the guard out of the way. It's hitting the blade. So what we want to do is find a proper way to cut this molding on the flat where we set the bevel and the miter just so that when we make a cut this way and we make a cut that way, we have a couple of pieces that'll come perfectly together in a 45-degree angle. Here's how it's done. This is the profile of the molding. This is the shape you use to lay out the right triangle from which we derive our formula. Measure the right triangle by making the right triangle the ceiling would make. It tore it up again, the molding. And that's kind of like that. And when we get it right at 3 inches on my hand side, my right hand side here where I'm wiggling the thumb, get that at 3 inches, it's about 2 5/8 on the nose of Rosie up on top. Here's our molding profile, and I want to establish for sure that this dimension here, the flat part across the back, the part that creates the hypotenuse of the triangle, is 4 inches on the nose. Here's a graphic representation of the formula. So what's the flat miter? That's the angle we'd cut if we could hold the molding in the same position it would be up on the wall, 45 degrees. And take note that on your calculator, arctangent is tangent to the -1 exponent, and arcsine is sine to the -1 exponent. Let's take a closer look at measuring the molding. It makes a right triangle with the wall. We've already established that this is 3 inches coming down. We did that with the framing square. And we set this in place and we make a mark. Now we figured 2 5/8 when we measured with the framing square. A really close look here. Let's burn 1 inch to 1 inch right at the point. We're going to call it 2 5/8. 2 5/8. Here's our formula. Miter equals arctangent times tangent of 45 degrees. A, 2 5/8, also known as 2.645, over C, 4 inches. And to get the bevel, bevel equals arcsine times the sine of 45, B, 3.0, over C, 4. Let's see how we do that in the calculator. To get the miter, second function, arctangent, tangent -1, parentheses, times the tangent, 45, parentheses, 2.645 divided by 4. Close that parentheses, close the next parentheses. What's our answer? 33.4746, etc. Now we do the same thing regarding the bevel. The bevel equals the arcsine, second function, sine to the -1, parentheses, regular sine of 45, parentheses, 3 divided by 4. Close the second parentheses and the first parentheses equal, what do we got? 32.02. We've computed our mathematics using our scientific calculator, and we came up with the miter at 33.47, which I will call 33.5. And right below it is the bevel at 32.02, which I will call 32. So let's see if we can figure out how we're going to cut the piece of wood first before we go on and set up our saw. This is the bottom of the molding, the belly of the molding here, so it would sit against the ceiling and the back wall like so. And the cut we would make, the other piece would be going this way, leaning out in the same fashion, meeting out about here somewhere. Then we would make a cut on some kind of a bevel, this away down to the very corner at the bottom. Here we've got the line straightened out for us, drawn kind of to the corner. And this is nothing serious here. This is only to guide us into how we're going to set the saw. Well, first, there's our 32.02 translated as 32 degrees on the bevel. And here's the little loosening device right here that allows you to set it go counterclockwise. Counter which way is that? Clockwise, I believe. And then we try to go to 32 degrees. And we lock it down tight. Now let's check our bevel as we get closer to the saw. We've already set the bevel on the saw, and we notice with our piece of wood, the way we laid it out, it's exactly the opposite to the way the saw is going. But if we can flip it over this way, it'll be exactly the angle of the saw. Now we have to set the miter at 33.5, and it's going to run this way, so our miter is going to be set thusly. So we come over here, we get past 30 and we count 1, 2, this has special little funny marks so it's hard to be sure, but 3 1/2 degrees right there. Tighten that puppy up real good. There it is, folks. 33 1/2 degrees away from 0 degrees. Our saw is set at the bevel and the miter to make our first cut. And what we would like to do is to secure our piece of molding, get it far enough over so we know we're going to get a clean cut from point to point. Make sure that whatever device we use on the saw to hold the molding still is employed, which it now is. Everything is ready. Our saw is plugged in. There'll be a little noise. Here we go. There it is, the first cut. Holding the molding the way it wants to go against the wall, we see that it looks pretty good. Looks like it's making something like a 45. The other piece will run this way. So, if we take the other end of our board and set it like that, then we have to make the appropriate marks on it, kind of like so. It's going to be cut out here a ways, and then it's going to run like this back down below. Okay, so knowing that, we come back to the saw and see which way the saw relates to this opposite angle. Here is the mark I made, all squared off nicely, and you'll notice that the bevel, at the angle, if we lay this thing flat down this way, the angle goes just the same way the saw is going. But the miter angled is going to go this way. So that means the saw has to come from here over this way. We are now going to set the saw at 33 1/2 degrees, coming this way from the 0 mark. Here we go. We're getting past 30 right there. 1, 2, 3 1/2. There's no little notch there, so we got to hold it still and tighten it up. All right, now I push my molding so it's far enough past that we know it's going to get cut down here, and we want to situate it and tighten it into place. I loosened this and moved it down that way so it wouldn't get hit by the top of the saw. Here we go. Here we go. Now, we want to cut this in half and see if we've really got ourselves a 90-degree mitered corner. Here's the cut through. And now for the magic. All right, we've got our two pieces here. I've reversed the order so that we can lay it out on the table. I got a square down there to help us be square. I got this first piece coming up here, this piece coming up against it, and lo and behold, that looks to me like a really square angle right now. And I think that that mathematical proposition really works out.